Hi folks, I'm Jay Mantey, Director of Narrative and Cultural Strategies for Race Forward. Welcome to Momentum, a Race Forward podcast. Michael Brown Jr. is still remembered by his family, friends, and neighbors as a good-hearted kid with an easy smile, funny and courteous. Big Mike, as his friends called him, should be here today. But on a fateful afternoon on August 9th, 2014, the unarmed Black teenager was shot and killed by white police officer Darren Wilson in Ferguson, Missouri. A grand jury declined in 2014 to indict Officer Wilson. Michael's death sparked widespread protests and unrest in Ferguson and beyond, mainstreaming issues of police violence, racial profiling, and systemic racism in law enforcement. The tragedy led to national conversations about anti-Blackness in the United States, the origin, purpose, and practices of police in our society, abolition versus reform, and what public safety and reparative care should look like if Black lives truly matter here. In the midst of national uprisings, from the high-profile police shootings of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and George Floyd in 2020, a grand jury declined to indict Officer Wilson again after a re-investigation into Michael Brown Jr.'s untimely death. The inability of our legal system to provide redress to Brown and his family only ignited greater demands for transformative justice, reparations, and public accountability at the local, regional, and national levels. Brown's death was a key catalyst for the resurgence of the Black freedom movement, robust anti-racist activism, and policy discussions that we have not seen since the 1970s. Today on Momentum, we talk to Michael Brown Sr. and Cal Brown, the parents of Michael Brown Jr., who after their son's death established the Chosen for Change organization, a nonprofit in honor of their son. The organization focuses on empowering and building leadership and self-determination through holistic grief counseling, outreach programs, and collective healing among fathers and families who are experiencing grief from the loss of a child due to tragic unforeseen circumstances such as police brutality. The organization aims to honor Big Mike's legacy by working on initiatives that support marginalized voices, encourage civic engagement, and foster positive community relations across religious preferences, ethnic background, gender, and race. And they often collaborate with other organizations to further their mission of creating a more just and equitable society. Recently, the Michael Brown Sr. Chosen for Change organization was chosen as one of the 14 organizations to anchor the inaugural Cultural Week of Action on Race and Democracy. The Cultural Week of Action is a new initiative by Race Forward and Americans for the Arts that leverages art, culture, and creativity to elevate dialogues and spark collective action to advance a multiracial democracy. During the Cultural Week of Action, Chosen for Change will debut As I See You, an art exhibit created through the eyes of Michael Brown Sr. and Cal Brown, in collaboration with Artivist STL. The exhibit provides an intimate look and detailed depiction of Michael Brown Jr. by family, friends, and people who've gathered to honor him and fight racial injustice. August 9th, 2024 will mark 10 years since Michael Brown Jr.'s untimely killing, which comes at a time where Americans are still being killed by police at inhumane rates across all categories of race. According to nonprofit research group Mapping Police Violence, 2023 was one of the deadliest years for police violence, with more than 1,300 deaths, the highest on record. Black people, as well as Native Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders, are still disproportionately being killed. This year, Race Forward's Facing Race Conference will be held in St. Louis, Missouri, a city rich in history, culture, and resilience. 15 miles from the city that sparked an important conversation on racial justice a decade ago, and by convening with organizers and collaborators like the Michael Brown Sr. Chosen for Change organization, we aim to stand as a beacon of hope, a clarion call to action, and a testament to the power of community-driven transformation. Michael Brown Sr., Cal Brown, welcome to Momentum, a Race Forward podcast. I am truly humbled and honored to talk to you today. While it pales in comparison, the afterlife of your son changed the course of my life. So I find it to be very serendipitous that I get to talk to you all 10 years later.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
So tell us about the story of the founding of Chosen for Change. Your powerful tagline is helping families cope with the unthinkable. How'd y'all arrive at that message?
So that wasn't something that we had right off. We began doing philanthropy in the community who stood up for us when Mike was laying in the street for 4.5 hours. Mid-September, early October, a childhood friend of mine brought us a poster. A young man about 8 or 9 years old took the obituary of Mike and he drew it on a poster board. And he did an amazing job to be an 8 or 9-year-old. Well, on that poster board, it said Chosen for Change. And we both looked at each other and we was like, that's it. Chosen for Change. So we began doing work in the community, paying bills, paying rent, adopting families in that community. That was the beginning of us, I wouldn't say healing, but just really coping with what had happened. And then more so, people start reaching out when they lost their loved one. And there was this high expectation, for us, but people didn't realize that we were going through our own grief still, and we didn't really have a lot to offer. So after hundreds of phone calls, we decided to kind of shift. Not that we do not do philanthropy anymore. It's kind of minimized. And we realized that everything that the community lacked for us when we lost Mike was the same thing that they continue to lack for the families to come. So we kind of modeled off our needs at the time, and we were like, this is an unthinkable space, and nobody really knows how to show up for people who are grieving, except for people who have experienced grief.
That's real. It's one that I think as I'm getting older and people that I know are passing, I'm thinking a lot more about, right? And I saw that y'all offer programming such as Chosen Fathers, Mothers of an Angel, and COPES, right, that provide inclusive grief support for entire families. And I just want to learn more, right? How do y'all approach helping community members, people, process loss and grief?
Well, how I approach the situation is because I lived it. I'm clear, I understand, the things that's needed. People so often forget about families that are grieving. It was so much at one time that things like this had happened and people just moved on and didn't even understand that they even had an issue. With certain communities, people just didn't get this. So we wanted to offer that, and be consistent with it because of what my wife has seen me going through. Because the first program that we kicked off was Chosen Fathers. And she's seen how some people didn't show up for me, or they came through and did certain things that was just not effective in the position or the condition that I was in, So to build that platform, the grief support for these other families, that's sadly, but it was a normal thing as far as putting it together because we lived it, So it wasn't hard to even orchestrate it. With these families, though, these families are very grateful. They show up. They show up every time we have the grief support. It's called Cookies and Convo, too. That's the grief support name. It's called Cookies and Convo. That's the name she came up with. But, yeah.
So for me to show up and build their trust.
Yeah, that too.
Because grieving families, they different.
Yeah.
And once they lose someone in this type of magnitude, the first thing to go away is trust.
Yeah.
So you have to show up for them, build their trust, and most of all, treat them the way you would want to be treated. Because that's one of the hardest and the most vulnerable times of somebody's life. So if you can't show up and build trust and treat them with decency and respect, you're not going to too much get any further.
Definitely.
To build a multiracial democracy, Race Forward needs your support. Join us in dismantling structural racism. By texting RFPOD to 44321, you can help us make more episodes about important racial justice conversations. Support by donating $24 in 2024 a pivotal year for our work together. All donations are tax deductible. Again, support our work by texting RFPOD to 44321.
I'm curious, what has been the impact of holding these spaces, right? Cookies and conversations.
Yeah.
What has been the impact that you have seen on just everyday people who are grief-stricken, right, due to these events?
So we have people who recently did testimonies about, what Chosen for Change and the journey of grief support has been. One of the ladies said that prior to getting in another program, Mothers of an Angel, she couldn't even get up in the morning and just be productive and do the normal daily ADLs. She just laid in the bed. She said, but since coming to us, she's had the ability to embrace the new her, because that's one of our initiatives. We give people the tools to cope, heal, and reinvent themselves. So she's been able to have the ability to embrace the new you. She understands that the old her is no longer there and that she has to show up and strengthen her new self.
Mm.
We have people who went from not talking at all to now that they've found their voice and they have the ability to pull up and show up for their angels. We had a father who his son died. At the time, he had been dead about 6 years. He hadn't looked at a picture of his son since he buried him. And we gave him the ability to have the strength to be able to look at a portrait of his son and have the confidence and, a sense of peace.
Mm. That's a big thing, just having that sense of peace. That's amazing work.
We have Chosen Fathers that was created in 2015. We provide a space for fathers to heal, bond, and grow after a loss. We hold a fathers retreat every year right after Father's Day, where we bring in roughly about 50 fathers from all over the world, and we take them somewhere in the world to just really have time for themselves. They don't have to worry about being a father or being a husband or any of the normal responsibilities. And we just give them the space that they need to express and to heal and, cope with the unthinkable loss. We have Mothers of an Angel of St. Louis, where we provide a space for a grieving mother to cope, heal, and reinvent herself after a loss. We use those three, cope, heal, and reinvent yourself, because you have to cope with your loss first, and then you'll have the ability to start the process of healing. And the process of healing can be a long road. And once you begin the process of healing, you have to reinvent yourselves, because you'll never be the same person again. When you lose your child, you lose a part of yourself. We have COPES, Children Overcoming Painful Experiences with Support. Children are often overlooked when a life is lost. People think that they're going to get over it. They're young. They're not going to remember. And then 3, 4, 5, 6 years down the line, and this child spirals out of control. I don't know what's wrong with that child. Nobody remembers that they forgot to nurture their needs during one of the hardest times of their life. Just think about if you lose a sibling that you've known all your life and nobody gives you the ability to express how you feel. Nobody nurtures your moment. You know what I'm saying? And even try to get the tools that you need to deal with that situation. So we will be officially launching COPES in September. We just really want to give these children the spaces that are needed to go out here and cope with their loss and still be law-abiding citizens, because it's only so much you can expect for somebody who is dealing with massive levels of grief, loss, and trauma. And it's going to be massive if don't nobody nurture it. You can't put a Band-Aid over a gunshot wound. We have Level Up for Literacy. Level Up for Literacy is our after-school program where we serve at-risk, underserved children in the 24-1 area. These are children who more than likely don't have a father in the home. So we have 3 to 4 Black men who show up every day for these children from 3:45 to 5:45. And they come with hugs, love, treats, a story, a book. They help with homework. They go outside and they play kickball, basketball, dress up, whatever is needed to really, really give these kids what they need to be excited and move forward about their education. We have a program called First 48 Grief Responders, where in the first 48 hours, a grief responder will show up for a family after a loss. Most of that we do in the first 48 comes from the lack of their other when we lost Mike. But there was a particular situation just 3 years back where a family lost their child, and the activists, they sprung into action. They were buying food, they were giving money, helping out in any way that they could. And when they circled back around to check on his family, the father was just absolutely livid. He told us, like, we done with the activists. I don't want them around. So I had to ask him, I said, why is it that you feel like that? What is it that they did or they did not do? He said, nobody asked my family what I needed. Nobody asked me what I needed. And I said, well, they provided food, money. He said, I don't need any of that. He said, I needed somebody to go outside and clean my child's blood out of our family van so that I could take my family to work. And that stuck with me because what I remember is nobody asked us what we needed.
Mm-hmm.
People assumed that we needed money. People assumed we needed food. People assumed that we needed a hotel room. But we didn't need a hotel room because we were already living in a hotel because we lost our house in a fire June 9th of that year. But because nobody took the time to say, hey, Mike, hey, Cal, what is it that you need? And they assumed. So that's why First 48 is so important for people, because we show up with the grief responders, we show up with clergy, we show up with social workers. That's the first question for us is, what do you need? So that we're not underserving and that we're not overstepping boundaries.
Yeah.
And people often do that with families who are grieving. They get so wrapped up in the person that was lost that they forget about the people who are left behind. So it's important how you show up for these families. It's important that you build their trust. And most of all, it's important for you to treat them the way that you will want to be treated. So we're intentional in the work that we do. Is it easy work? No. But is it necessary? Yes.
Wow. I'll say, Cal, as you list out, the program that y'all offer in full, part of what I'm hearing is how much you all are bolstering, supporting, amplifying the benefits of strong Black fatherhood and parenting. And I'm just curious, from y'all's point of view, how does the work that you do challenge stereotypes about Black men and Black fatherhood?
Man, the challenge is major. One of the first things that people did was they tried to denounce Mike as a Black father. Of course, they came out with 90 million different narratives about Mike. But when they seen that that wasn't going to work, they wanted to attack the next best thing, which was his father. And I just felt like, not having a father myself, it was just important to show that he was a father. He was a part of his son's life. And that although he has this masculine, stern look, he still has a heart for other children despite losing his own son. So we out here, despite what we going through, we stand 10 toes down in the work that we do. We talked about justice earlier. That's a part of our justice, you know what I'm saying, in the work that we do. Although about the first 8 or 9 years, the work that we did was out of emotion. It was intentional, but it was more so out of emotion. Now, with people supporting us and the funding coming in, now we can get out here and make the real change that is needed. Right here in St. Louis alone, more than 57% of our population is dealing with grief, loss, and trauma. That's a lot. And a lot of those people, 22% of that, 57% are unhoused because of it. The work that we do day after day, we realize how much is needed and how important it is.
Absolutely. We are engaged in supporting housing justice campaigns, organizing, happening, at the grassroots level across the country. And, we definitely hear from folks that it's not just the actual having the housing, but also, folks needing the actual social, mental, behavioral support, right? Getting through the grief and honestly staying where they're at in their neighborhood, even without housing, is because this may be the only place they know, right? And so having folks like y'all and Chosen for Change be around, I'm sure is a great help to people who are dealing with grief, who don't know what to do next, like you said, how to even get out of bed.
Yeah. 95% of the people who commit crimes are dealing with some type of grief, loss, and trauma or mental health that has not been nurtured.
Michael Sr., you had mentioned that people who aren't a part of these families, who aren't a part of these close communities, these events occur and they forget, they move on, right, to the next name, the next name. By the time this episode airs, you are going to have a commemorative event, All Roads Lead to Ferguson, from August 1st through 10th. And that actually will commemorate 10 years since the murder of your son, Michael Brown Jr. And I just want to know, in your own words, what is the significance of this 10-year commemoration?
Well, the significance of this day of commemorating Mike is just of remembrance. I go someplace and it's crazy. Some people don't even know who Mike Brown is, and then sometimes I be thinking they be trying to be funny, but it's okay. I'm past that stage of being angry. I'm just, I'm easier on myself because, you can't be upset with people that are just ignorant, right? But yeah, commemorating him, humanizing him, and letting people know that, he was loved. And just showing up. We've been showing up for 10 years, letting the people know that we ain't forgot, and the community still been coming out. And we could go on Facebook and people are still posting his face, hashtagging his name. And, so just to keep the memory alive and have a place where the support can be held for the protesters and everyone else that stood up for Mike, and just to embrace and enjoy that day.
Definitely. Mike Brown forever. How do y'all hope and feel that this event can advance the national conversation on racial justice?
Ooh, that's a hard question, especially when just a month ago we lost Sonia Massey. Here in St. Louis, we just lost a 13-year-old to police brutality.
Yeah, yesterday.
Yeah, so that's a hard question, being in this season, like real talk, because thousands of people have been killed since Mike Brown. And our goal was for another parent to never have to feel the way we feel. But to date, we have served more than 1,700 families.
Wow.
So that speaks volumes.
I feel that.
You would think by now the tone would have been set. You would think that there would be a better understanding, a greater respect for Black and brown lives, but we just not there.
Actually, let's talk about Ferguson and St. Louis at large, right? When I think about your son, I think about the gross tragedy of losing your life or walking with a friend down a familiar neighborhood street, right? And just how many Black people feel they don't have the luxury or safety of taking up space, even in their own communities, their own neighborhoods, due to surveillance and police violence.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just wondering, and it sounds like y'all already gave some of this, but I'm curious to know more, how have conditions changed, if at all, in Ferguson, particularly around Black folks feeling they can move freely throughout their city without fear?
Well, the faces of power has changed. They look like us. They have removed stop and frisk. There's a lot more community body cams, a lot more community engagement. But Ferguson police killed an individual just months ago.
Yeah.
So I gave you all the good stuff, and then I'm going to tell you that. So what has really changed? There's been a lot of dollars shifted in different spaces to make things look good. Yeah. But if we still killing Black and brown people, how much has really changed? There's a lot that has changed, but nearly not enough.
Right.
When Cookies and Convo begins to have 1 or 2 people or none, then I can say that there's true change. But we went from 2 or 3 to sometimes 70 or 80 grieving families in one space.
Next year will be 5 years since the killing of George Floyd, right? Another high-profile Black person, shot down by police. And I'm wondering, if you can tell us from your point of view, how you're just feeling about this current national reckoning on like anti-Black racism and police violence. We saw mass protests, people out in the streets in 2020 saying, this won't happen again, right? And I'm curious, you named some good things, Cal, but nationally speaking, do you think there have been any wins that you would, want to celebrate since 2020, since 2014 that you think are there? Any wins?
It ain't no wins.
I feel that.
It ain't no wins until people stop losing their kids.
Yeah.
People always talking about, we want justice. Justice would be Mike Brown Jr. still being here and us getting our day in court and fighting for his freedom. So
ain't no wins with that.
No.
Because I met George Floyd's family, I'm not going to stay on that long, but, I'm happy for them with their day in court. But until we get a handle on what's going on in the system, it's sad that we seem to feel like we're getting pushed back. So it's hard to recover off of getting pushed back. And then, too, I feel like, even when the system play us and say that they're going to do something, we still shouldn't back down. We still should be outside. We still should be doing what we doing, because that's the game plan. Let's give them something or tell them something so they can stop. No, there ain't no stop. But I get it. Here in St. Louis, we have some different type of weather, right? It's definitely bipolar, so I don't expect for people to be out in 0 degrees, protesting and standing up. I wouldn't dare tell no one to be outside when it's that rigidity, and I wouldn't dare tell no one when it's almost 113 degrees outside either, But if we let up off of them, we give them more time to strategize and come up with other things to break us back down, because mentally we always want to know that we won something. And the way this thing is set up is to keep their foot on our neck and their knee in our back, so.
We have won when we are free. And we have the ability to live in a safe and harmonious world. That's the win.
Yeah, and you would hope that other people want that too. No matter, what you may look like, where you're coming from, your race you may be, your gender, that you want that kind of world. I want that kind of world. Michael Sr., you had mentioned, people playing in our faces and trying to sort of block progress. And I'm curious, even like right now in this moment, what do y'all make of like this widespread backlash to any kind of efforts that y'all have made, other folks who are out trying to protest and organize have made around like racism and police violence? What do y'all make of that right now, this backlash?
I think it's absolutely disgusting. And you would think in 2024, we wouldn't have to worry about things like this. I mean, that's really the best way that I can say it. We are in 2024, and it's almost just as bad as it was 400 years ago. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. There's a lot of work to be done. My expectations is not even thinking that I'm going to be able to even see it, but just putting my feet in the sand and doing our part, and making sure, the rest of my kids, will be able to walk these streets safely and just be in free spirit and not have to worry about anything, would just be, wonderful to see. But, it's just a lot of work to be done, to make sure that happens. And hopefully, after we're gone and that maybe their grandkids or kids, can be able to just live their life and don't have to worry about anything. Even with the struggles and stuff like that we go through, I still look over my shoulder. I feel like at this point that I've been, trained to think that ain't no one safe, so.
I definitely feel that. To paraphrase Kwame Ture, talks about the work that we're doing is not for us to see, right? It's for kids and our kids' kids. And so that's why we keep going despite, all of the obstacles and backlash that we're experiencing. That's real. On a broader note, I do want to congratulate y'all. Your organization, Children for Change, was chosen as one of the 14 projects that will anchor Race Forward's inaugural Culture Week of Action on Race and Democracy, taking place September 27th through October 5th. Now, Chosen for Change is going to be unveiling an art exhibit entitled As I See You, created in collaboration with Artivists St. Louis. And I just want to know more. Can you walk us through the elements of the installation and its intended impact?
Woo. So we have art from around the world that has been created in honor of Mike Brown Jr. over the last 10 years. We did this exhibit in 2019 at the 5-year commemoration. And it was an idea that just kind of came late. And I'm good at coming up with ideas. You know, greatness don't come on a time schedule. So I just kind of took the artwork that we've got over time and put it together. And I had a bust created out of his dad's torso. It was beautiful because artists from all over and activists came to put their own layer on this bust that was created. So the bust was created with a lot of love. And there was an artist that was chosen to create Mike's face, and that didn't work out. So we had to improvise, but it ended up just being a beautiful depiction of how we saw Mike Jr. Fast forward 5 years later, we've been blessed to find an artist by the name of Vincent Smith, who has created an entire body, Mike Brown Jr. I can't wait. I'm so excited. He did an amazing job creating his face. That was one of the hardest things. If you've seen a picture of Mike, you know, he has very distinct details and it's hard to duplicate. But this young man, do you agree, did an amazing job. And when he got stuck on his face, he was like, I feel like I'm almost there. What else do I need to do? And it took his sisters to critique him. And it's absolutely perfect. His body, his torso, his arms, his legs, his feet was created out of his dad's body. So it's a pretty special piece. We have an installation of The Revolution Will Be Televised. You know how they say the revolution will not be televised. Well, in 2024, it will be televised. So I'll be installing that. There will be a story wall for people to come in and talk about what August 9th meant to them. If they could get a message to Mike Brown, what would that be? You'll have Mike Brown sitting in his room at a desk with all the things that he loved, you know, surrounded by his laptop, his clothes, cap and gown. You know, there are banners that were created during the Breonna Taylor killing. It's a lot. I wish y'all could come and see it, but hopefully these photographers and videographers do an amazing job of capturing the moment, because it's going to be beautiful. It's really heartfelt. That's my baby for now. And I really, really look forward to it expanding for the Cultural Week of Action and the Race Forward Conference in November.
For sure. I'm very excited for it. And you mentioned the conference. Facing Race International Conference is coming to y'all city. It'll be in St. Louis from November 20th through the 22nd. And as a testament to all the work that grassroots organizers, protesters, community members on the ground have done, the conference's theme is Our Power, Our Solutions. How are y'all, through Chosen for Change, using your power to create solutions for Ferguson, but also for beyond?
One of our main things is to stay visible. I think that's one of the most important things, for them to see that despite them killing his son, he has not folded, and he's using every bit of power that he has to not only speak up for his son, but speak up for thousands of others. Our power, our solution. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the solution is unity, and we ain't there yet. When we come together and put our differences aside, we're going to be a force to be reckoned with. So I'm going to push my power until all my people ready for the solution. And that's coming together.
For sure.
I'll never like to leave me nothing.
I'm sorry.
Michael Brown Sr.
So I would say, because that's what I always say, you know, when people turn on the TV, I don't ever want people to see me broken. You know, I want them to see strength. I want them to see an amazing man that has been through the fire, you know, and still haven't turned to ash yet, you know. So just to see the strength, you know, and people able to embrace that strength and praise it a little bit, you know, because I could have went and stuck my head in the ground, you know. That's the easy way, you know. I could have went out and did some crazy stuff. That's the easy way. But using my brain and playing the game that they playing, and what they didn't even expect me to do was just like one of the hardest things to do, but the reward is everything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Is there anything else that you all want to share with our listeners, to y'all's supporters?
My heart goes out to anyone who has lost someone. If, God forbid, if that does happen, surround yourself with people who you can trust, people who will be intentional about what they provide for you. Seek help. Most of all, you can reach out to us. We serve families worldwide. You can find us on all social sites. You can visit our website at www.chosenforchange.org. But prior to getting in contact with us, take a moment and just let everything resonate in you. Get out all the yells, the screams, the cries, the punches, and just really take a moment and try to get grounded to the best of your ability so that you can be aware of your surroundings. There are vultures out here. There are people who
Prey on the dead.
Yeah, and they will pimp your pain.
Yeah. So I would say, take that moment for yourself, and however long did it take, please don't sign nothing. Don't sign nothing. Don't make no agreements. Don't gather your own thoughts. Get around some people that sadly been, affected by the same thing. They will come and reach out, so definitely get with them before you even make any type of decisions, because we all have been through, some type of dealings with people that were not genuine. Just take your time, and we'll always be there. Cal left the website, and the website is
www.chosenforchange.org. And the last thing I'll say is, if you do not have a voice, do not let anybody speak for you or your loved one until you find your voice.
Michael Brown Sr., Cal Brown, we are grateful to have y'all with us. So I want to thank y'all for y'all time. This has been amazing talking to you, and look forward to seeing y'all when I'm out there during Face and Race.
All righty.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Momentum, a Race Forward podcast. I want to thank Michael Brown Sr., Cal Brown, and the Michael Brown Sr. Chosen for Change organization for making this episode possible. Be sure to follow Race Forward on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter/X. And to support our work, make your $24 donation for 2024 by texting RFPOD to 44321. That's RFPOD to 44321. Until next time, let's keep the momentum going.